Lynch from CommsDay, and today we're going to be talking about the opportunities and possibilities of satellite technology. Now, I've been covering both telecommunications and satellite communications for over 20 years, and so I've seen the best and the worst of both worlds, and particularly the way some people in the telecom sector can be dismissive of the capabilities of satellite. But I also do sense that's beginning to change quite a lot as people become aware of the massive advancements in satellite technology. So to discuss this, I'm joined by Sandeep Kumar, who's the Head of International Satellite for Telstra. Welcome, Sandeep.
Hi, nice to be here, Graham.
Okay. First of all, I want to take us through a list of myths about satellite, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to bust a few of them. So let's start off with capacity. It's often been said about satellites that they have massive capacity constraints and thus they're not useful. Is that the case?
Look, so capacity constraint used to be, especially when you compare with telecommunication technologies, right? The historical satellite used to be in some gigabits, for maybe 2 gigabits total satellite capacity. But there has been so many advancements lately that now we're talking about satellites that are going into terabits, so each satellite can carry terabits. And we have constellations that now can carry terabits. So, there has been a leap made in the capacity. So I don't think those constraints will exist anymore.
Okay, now another so-called myth about satellite is that it's too expensive. Again, is that still the case?
Look, so relatively, yes, it is pricey than other technologies, as we all know that. But again, it has been becoming affordable in the last many years, and specifically in the last 5 years, there has been so much innovation in the industry in everything that it has become a lot more affordable. And small to medium business enterprises, even consumers now are benefiting from the overall cost reduction. And if you sort of dive into it, how the reduction has been made, it has been made on all fronts. So all the components that build the cost of satellite systems as a ecosystem have gone down, and now the hardware has become affordable, the capacity has become affordable, the network has become much better. So yes, now those days are, I think, behind us now.
Okay, now one of the other things I hear from the naysayers, satellite way too complicated to deploy. True or false?
Oh, look, so, I would say, again, everything is transitioning, right? It used to be somewhat true. You needed a really qualified, a bunch of engineers to install satellite systems on the ground. And now, there are systems that can be self-installed, right? So that's where the industry is progressing. There are people shipping consumer satellites, VSATs that can be self-installed by customers themselves. And you have probably seen some videos floating around for Starlink. You just put it looks at the satellite as long as you can power it and give it a bit of clear sky. So yeah, it has changed quite a lot. And now, consumers can install it, or someone with basic knowledge can install it.
Okay. Now the satellite naysayers often think this is their killer argument. Satellites are high up in space, often thousands of kilometers. That leads to high latency, and latency kills everything. What do you say to that?
Okay, so yes, that's true. Satellite, the geostationary satellite that's being used for communication purposes have been at an altitude of 36,000 kilometers, and it's a matter of physics. By the time the signal goes up and down, it takes around 550 milliseconds for a round trip delay. But again, in the past say 8 years, there has been a lot of advancement made in terms of altitudes of satellites, and we have seen the medium Earth orbit satellites being launched, and now LEOs, the low Earth orbit satellites being launched. So everything is sort of coming down towards more closer to the Earth, reducing the latency significantly. So from the days of 550, 600 milliseconds, now we are talking about 30 to 40 milliseconds. There are other types of platforms that are also being made available. But again, one of the myths that it still doesn't work on GEO. So yes, a lot of applications work on GEO perfectly fine. Remember, in the old days when there were no cable systems, people used to call international using satellites, not cables. Cables came later on. So a lot of people have forgotten that part. So yes, there are certain applications that are client-based would work better if the latency is low, but latency doesn't kill everything.
Okay, what about the question of compatibility and interoperability? Does satellite work with people's network systems?
Absolutely right. So, satellite is not a standalone system by its own, right? It has to always connect to a network eventually, and we have seen the advancement. In fact, satellite would is just an extension of your own, wide area network in that sense. You could do it by fiber or wireless or other means. Satellite technology has come to an extent that now it is fully IP, and you can overlay any application over that. And in fact, the newest application have been using SD-WAN technology, so it just looks like another node on your network. So yes, it does interoperate with everything that you can think of.
Okay, and a corollary of that is some people make the claim that satellite doesn't work with new technologies such as SD-WAN.
No, that's not true. We have deployed actually, some customer network that are using SD-WAN, and traditionally, it has used serial type of communication like a long line, and then it went into IP. People have been using either internet as a backend or IP VPN on MPLS as a backend, and the newest technology has been SD-WAN and going back into the cloud. So I think that just a myth that it doesn't work. No, it does actually work with everything that is available on terrestrial technologies.
Okay, I've still got more to throw at you here, Sandeep.
Yeah.
The weather. Surely you can't make an argument about that. If it's rain or thunderstorms, that does affect satellite communications.
Yeah, look, so it does. It is the nature of RF. When it passes through through rain droplets, it does get attenuated. But if you look at certain bands like C-band, it does get attenuated the least, right? So you still get an availability of 99.95. Yes, the newer bands like Ka-band, which is very high frequencies, get somewhat more attenuated, but you are still getting close to 99.7% availability. And there are softwares in the modem that's help them to maintain that length. So sometimes they can decrease the overall throughput, but you still can maintain the length. So yes, there is an effect on every type of RF, and especially high end, or high frequencies, but it is not to an extent that it is unusable or anything.
Okay,
and we are practically being used in countries like Papua New Guinea, Northern Queensland, and it does work. Yes, it does get affected somewhat, but yes, it still maintains the link.
Okay, what about security? Surely with the distances it traverses, it makes it a lot more difficult to secure.
Look, in fact, it is the other way. Satellite systems are inherently more secure than terrestrial technologies, and especially subsea cables. If you look at subsea cable, they land at many different landing stations. They go through a lot of equipment that can be under control of other governments and so on. Whereas satellite links are usually from one end to another end, and you have a full control over that satellite link. And it is inherently secure in that sense that if you look at all the government departments, military, they all rely on satellite communication, and obviously you can put more layers of security on top of that. So satellite systems are actually inherently more secure, relatively speaking, than any other fiber technologies.
Okay, so my final question. Some people would like to portray or position satellite as a technology of the past. I would assume that you disagree with that. Tell me why.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there have been times in the industry when people thought, hey, there have been so many advancements made, especially in other wireless technologies and fiber technology, that satellite is going to, get left behind. And it kind of started to sort of roll back. But if you see lately what has happened in the industry, all the big names have jumped into satellite comms, right? The likes of Elon Musk and the like of Jeff Bezos, they're all sort of putting behind constellation of satellites. So obviously, there is a lot of belief in satellite technologies of the future as it become more affordable, more reliable, easy to deploy. So I don't think it is a technology of past. It is technology of present, and I think satellite, going forward, you will see it will become more inherent part of any telco offering.
Well, it definitely is an exciting space, and with that, pardon the poor pun there. With that, I'd like to thank you for busting a few myths today, Sandeep.
My pleasure, and then thank you for having me on board, Grahame.